So yesterday we discussed about collections. Okay, we discussed two types of collections. One which contain linear data, another which contain key value pairs, that is map. Okay, today we are going to start with an important topic in Java, that is Java IO, input output. Okay, so before actually going into coding, I would like to walk you through uh, how files are managed, stored, how they are encoded in Java. Okay, so how files are stored in a machine, that is hard disk, uh, how files are categorized. Okay, what are the different encoding techniques. Okay, and after that we'll actually jump into few file examples. Okay, first one, types of files. So files can be divided into text files and binary files. Text files, what are text files? Files which contain plain text. Plain text includes numbers, lowercase alphabets, uppercase alphabets, special characters, language specific characters. That means if you take any another language, suppose Hindi has its own characters. Any European language, they have their own characters. Chinese language has their own characters. Okay, so every
Rama,
language has.
ఒక పని చేసేటప్పుడు నువ్వు చెప్పకుండా ముందనే గొడవ అయింది మన ఇద్దరికి.
Ramu,
ఆ,
it's okay, man. Take it easy. Mute చేయి.
అరే ఉప్పు ఉప్పు తక్కువ నువ్వు
సరే. Okay, so and language specific characters. Suppose there is Chinese language. Chinese language has its own alphabets, right? Or if they are not called alphabets, their own characters, language specific characters. So that is also a character that can be written in a file, right? So those are text files. So if I create notepad, if I open notepad, write something and save it, that is nothing but a text file. Okay, basic file, basic text file. Then binary files. A binary file is a computer file that is not a text file. Any file which is not a text file is called as binary file. For example, an image, audio, video, exe files, your Excel file, your Microsoft Word file, your PowerPoint, whatever which is not plain text, that is called as binary file. Okay, so Microsoft Word document is also a binary file, even though it contains text. Okay, even though it contains text, it's still binary file and it's not text file. Why? Because it also contains formatting images in it. So if I open any Microsoft Word, I can add formatting to text, like I can put few letters in bold, I can change the color of few letters to something else apart from black. Okay, I can paste images in that document. Okay, even though it contains readable text data, still it's not a uh, plain text file. Okay, similarly Excel file, even though it contains readable data, but still it's not plain text file, because see, it has multiple sheets, it has formatting, I can make things bold. Okay, there are many things, it's not simple plain text file. Okay, so what is a text file? A file which can be viewed through your notepad. Okay, that is only called as plain text file. All other files, they cannot be viewed using your plain notepad application, they are binary files. Next thing, how files are stored in computer. In day to day life, when we use computer, so we see we deal with lot of files, even it if it is image file or audio file, video file or Excel file, Word document, they are all files. Okay, your plain text file, everything is a file, right? So how they are stored on disk? Okay, this is very important for you to understand. Okay, this is very basic thing. So computer, as we already discussed, computers understands only bits. It doesn't understand an image, or it doesn't understand an Excel file as it is. Okay, the file is first converted to corresponding bits, then stored in computer hard disk as zero ones, 01, 01, like this, 111, sorry, zero ones. So any data that is first converted into bits like this, 01, 01s, then stored on disk. When we want to read data or read the data present in file, what we actually do is, uh, let me open an example. Okay, suppose there is my test1.txt file. Okay, it is in my D drive, uh, new folder name is my folder. Okay, folder name is my folder. Okay, this folder has this drive has this file. Okay, and it has some data, some, suppose this is text data, so it has simple text as Sachin Tendulkar. Okay, okay, it has only this text. How this file is stored in hard disk? How it's stored is, you have hard disk, right? Hard disk is nothing but uh, a memory. Okay, that is secondary memory. Your primary memory is your random access memory. Hard disk is your secondary memory, okay, which is not runtime memory. In it, this data is first converted into bits. Okay, like this. Maybe I'm not giving you exact conversion, just putting this. Okay, uh, this is the memory location, suppose. So since if it is taking, okay, 10 10 10 10. How many bits are there? 2 4 6 8. Okay, in fact data is stored as bytes. Okay, even though bit bit is smallest entity, in general data is stored as bytes. That is, a byte is equal to 8 bits, right? Okay, now suppose this complete data takes some 20 bits or some 5 bits. Okay, suppose it's taking these 5 bits. Okay, so to this file, suppose this is your total hard disk memory or hard disk memory. I'll highlight it with red, sorry, um, where are borders, um, all borders. Okay, suppose this is your complete memory. Okay, in this, for this file, this part is allocated. I will highlight it in yellow. Okay, so basically this test one, okay, this this name is pointed to this memory location. Okay, in this memory your actual Sachin Tendulkar is converted into bits and it is there. Okay, and this test1.txt points to this yellow memory location. Suppose if I change the content, then corresponding values get changed. Now it might be changed, it might get changed to some 0101, something like that. Okay, like this. So what I am trying to say is, so this test1.txt is just a reference to this memory location. This memory location has actual data, that is Sachin Tendulkar, which is in the form of bits. Okay, remember it, this data does not exist as it is in the memory. It never be like this. Suppose this is Sachin Tendulkar, um, sorry, it is never stored in the memory with actual characters. It is first converted into bits, okay, bits, corresponding bits, then stored in memory, and this name points to this memory location. Okay, this is how files get stored in memory. Suppose there is another file in the same location, that is my some my pic.jpg. It is also converted into bits. Okay, it is also allocated some space. Suppose for this, in this memory 4 bits are allocated. I'll paint it as red, okay, for this file. Okay, and corresponding bits are there, 8 byte bits. Okay, sorry, 8 bits byte will be stored in like this, something like this. 3 4, okay, we'll add 0 1 1 1 0 like this. Okay, so now this mypic.jpg is just name of name or reference to this memory location. In this memory location, actual file content is stored in the form of bits. So this is how any file is stored in your hard disk. Okay, so this Sachin Tendulkar text never exists in memory as it is. This Sachin Tendulkar is first converted to bits. Okay, okay, suppose based on content in the size, sometimes it might need only 1 byte. That is, one byte is sufficient. This itself is sufficient. Sometimes if there is huge data, it might take hundreds of bytes. Okay, you read the file size as kb. What is that? Kilobyte. Suppose if the file size is 5 kb, that means it's taking 5 bytes, 5000 bytes. That equal to 5000 bytes. Okay, so 5000, here they are only 5000. Remember, imagine how much they will be. It grows something like this, 5000. Okay, just understand the concept, because when we are trying to learn Java IO, we should not be dumb on this. We should know how the data is stored in memory. It also helps in understanding further classes which act on reading and writing uh, files. Okay, Kalyan, you are back. Okay, next.
Yes, Sid.
Okay, okay. Computers understand only bits. File is converted to bits and stored on hard disk. Both text files and binary files are converted to bits and stored on hard disk. Okay, I just show you the example. This is just text file, that is in yellow, and this is your binary file, that is JPG file, that is in red. Okay, both are converted to bits. Okay, next important thing is, we just discussed that any file is first converted into bits. Okay, from now onwards I'll call it byte. Okay, I'll not call it bit. Okay, I will not call it bit. I will call it byte. Byte equal to 8 bits. Okay, everyone knows this. So why we can think of byte as byte is the smallest memory unit. Okay, because bit is smallest, we know it contains single bit, that can be 0 or 1. 8 bytes, 8 bits. Okay, we know bit is smallest, bit is smaller than byte, but still byte is the smallest memory unit. But when we come to actual memory management like this, we use byte, because using bit we can hardly store single value 0 or 1, right? But using 8 bits I can store 2 power 8, 2 power 8, that equal to 256 values. If I take 1 byte, using 1 byte I can represent 256 values. Okay, so byte is considered as the smallest memory unit. Even if I want to represent 0, okay, how it can be represented using single bit, like this. Okay, 1, how this can be represented using single bit, 1. Suppose if I want to represent 0 with a byte, not with bit, how I can represent 0, 0, 0, 0, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I want to represent 1, how I represent 0, 0, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Okay, this is how I represent. If I want to represent 2, how do I represent? Like this. Next, 1, 1. Okay. This is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, until I can keep on go like this, keep on going like this. So last value, highest value that can be represented using a byte is 256. How to represent a 256? That are all ones, 1, 1, 1, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That represents 255. Okay, why? Because so we start with 0, we end with 255. Total values are 0 through 255, that equal to 256. Okay, don't worry if you don't understand. No, don't worry. Just have this thing in mind, that byte is the smallest memory unit. Okay, even for 0 I allocate 1 byte, where all 8 bits in that byte are 0 for 0. Okay, next important thing is encoding. So far we have been uh, thinking that a file is converted to bits, okay, bits, and stored in hard disk. So on what basis a file is converted to bits? Okay, so there should be some formula or some logic or some algorithm which defines characters S should be converted to this value, character A should be converted to this value, character C should be converted to this value. Okay, there should be some mechanism which tells us how to convert this data or file data into bits. Okay, so that is called encoding. First, converting characters to numbers is called encoding. Okay, remember, from now onwards we'll only speak about character files. We don't speak about binary files. So we discussed about two files, that is text files and binary files. Okay, we discussed how both of these files are stored on a computer. Now the next discussion is about how character files are stored on computer, or text files are stored in computer. Okay, so we are going into text files, how text files are actually stored on hard disk. We know they are stored in the form of bytes. Okay, the next step is, if they are stored in the form of bytes, what is the logic using which you are converting into bytes? That we are going to see. So before that, there are two words. The encoding, converting characters to numbers is called encoding. Suppose character S is converted to a byte. Okay, character A is converted into another byte, character C is converted into another byte, like this. Okay, so this kind of converting characters to numbers is called as encoding. decoding. What is decoding? Converting numbers to characters back is called decoding. So when you actually see the data, when I open text file, or when I open this test1.txt in notepad, I actually see Sachin Tendulkar, okay, in that text file, and we don't see the bits. That means that notepad is actually converting the bits into corresponding text. It's converting back, okay. That is called as decoding. So encoding is converting characters to numbers or bits. I'll call bytes. As I said, I don't call by bits, I call them bytes. Is called as, sorry, converting is called decoding, okay. So what happens? This test1.txt is first encoded and stored in memory like this. When we view that file using notepad, notepad read this data from memory, converts it back into actual text that we can read, humans can read, okay, and show us. This is called as decoding, okay. So encoding schemes. What is encoding? Converting text, I'll call it characters. Text file has all characters. Converting characters to bytes, okay, is called encoding. Now what is encoding scheme? Encoding scheme is a rule, okay, or you can call it a formula, okay, or you can call it a logic which defines on what defines how to convert character into corresponding byte. Don't worry, you will understand, okay. So this is called encoding scheme. There are multiple encoding schemes. The one is the oldest, or one of the very first encoding schemes is ASCII or ASCII. Nowadays latest one, there are another things called ANSI, Latin, and nowadays most famous is Unicode. So you might have heard about UTF 8, UTF 16, UTF 32, okay. These are all, these three come under Unicode, okay. ASCII, ANSI, Latin, Unicode, these are all are different encoding schemes. Each scheme has its own way of converting characters into corresponding byte, okay. Okay, we'll only discuss about ASCII and Unicode. We'll only discuss about ASCII and Unicode in this class. ASCII, what is ASCII? American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Okay, it is one of the early character encoding standards. Okay, because computers were invented by English speaking world, all the characters used in English language are identified, which include numbers, lowercase letters, uppercase letters, special characters, okay. So you see the keyboard, right? On screen keyboard, apart from functional keys, anyhow you don't see, apart from these shift control, you have all the alphabets in smaller case, all the alphabets in uppercase, and you have all the numbers 0 through 9. Okay, and the special characters, that is C, all the at the rate, hash, dollar, percent, comma, this brackets, all different brackets, these are all called special characters. That is small alphabets, capital alphabets, numbers, and special characters. So those were all the characters which were defined in English language. So when we sum all those characters, these 128 characters, there are total 128 such characters. I'll show you what are they. Okay, our next slide has all the characters. These 128 characters are mapped to numbers 0 to 127. Okay, so let me show you. Okay, this is ASCII encoding scheme, where it says that, see, this 0 1 2 3, that on the left. Okay, 31. So first 32, 0 to 31, then 32 to 63, then 64 to 95, then 96 to 127. Okay, and ignore this hex and oct, don't worry about it, just only concentrate on decimal and character. Okay, character null is represented using 0. Okay, and ignore these first 32 characters. Okay, so these were significant when people are using very much using the type machine. Okay, so nowadays these are obsolete, no one uses them. Okay, so first thing we need to keep in mind is ASCII was one of the oldest techniques. So when computers were initially invented, since they were invented, computers were invented by English speaking world, they only concentrated on encoding their characters, okay, into numbers or bytes. So what are the characters they use? So first 32 ignore them, second 32 see. This 32 stands for special character space, 33 stands for exclamation mark, 34 stands for double quote, 35 stands for hash code. You can see that until 47 they are all for special characters. Starting from 32 to 47 they are for special characters. From 48 to 57 they are for numbers. Again from 58 they are for special characters. From 65 they are for capital letters. 65 to 90. Okay, from 91 they are again special characters. From 97 they are all for small characters. After that there are few special characters, and 127 is for delete, the last one. Okay, total 0 through 127, total how many are there? 128. So okay, what they did, all the characters that are defined in English language, they uh, they come up with this mapping. So here this ASCII scheme has mapping for all the characters that are used in English language. Okay, so now you know what formula they used. In fact there is no formula, this just number to character mapping is nothing but the formula here, or rule. I can call it a rule or formula or scheme. Okay, encoding scheme, simple. So many times you heard a lot about, so since we are software engineers we hear a lot about ASCII characters or Unicode characters. We actually don't know what that is. Hopefully you might have understood what are ASCII characters by this time, why we use them. Okay, why 32 space is represented with 32. Okay, why capital A is represented with 65, why small a is represented with 97. Okay, so this is okay. Let me take example of character um, example of the character this uh, space. Okay, space. Okay, the space is corresponding ASCII character for space is 32, but we know in memory we just discussed that in memory it's stored as bytes and it's not stored as 32 like this. Okay, then how 32 is written in memory? The 32's corresponding bit representation, just now I told you, right? For representing 0 we use this, for representing 1 we use this, for representing 7 we use 0 0 0 0 and 0 1 1 1 like this. Okay, so corresponding similar, this is for 0, this is for 1. After that I directly prepared for 7, and for 62 this is for 7, 2 cube, 2 power 4 equal to 16. How 16 is represented? 3 1 1 1 1. How 32 is represented? um, Sorry, 7 is represented like this, 15 is represented like this, 15 31 is represented like this, 0 0 0 1 1 1 1 1. Okay, how 32 is represented? It is represented like this, 1 0 0 0 0 0. Okay, so don't worry. So 32, if you represent it in the form of bits, okay, it is equal to this value, 32 equal to this in its bits number. Now 32, a character space, suppose in my file there is Sachin Tendulkar, text present in file is this, and it has one space. How the space is represented? Okay, I know in ASCII space is equivalent to 32 and corresponding bit value is 0. Okay, now this value is stored in your actual memory. Okay, this means space. So this is how files are encoded using ASCII. So in our later I'll show in examples. So it directly prints, suppose if I give a character double quote, we'll make our Java program to print 34 corresponding ASCII value, that is 34. If I give capital A, I will make it to print 65 corresponding ASCII value. Okay, we'll do that in our later examples. So now you know what is a character encoding. Okay, our encoding scheme, ASCII is one such scheme. We just saw in how the characters are mapped to numbers or bits in ASCII. Okay, and we saw that there are total 128 ASCII characters. Okay, there are total 128. The last value is 127. 0 to 127 equal 128. Out of 128, first 32 are obsolete now. We only use remaining 64. Okay. Drawbacks of ASCII. First drawback is, or major drawback is, ASCII has only characters from English. See, it has only characters that are present in English keyboard. Okay. Do you see any characters, any Chinese character in it? Do you see any Japanese character in it? Do you see any Russian character? Do you see any Hindi character in it? There is no place for these characters. Suppose if there is any file which is written in Chinese language, okay, we cannot encode it using ASCII encoding scheme, because ASCII has no place for other characters which are not in English, so which are in a language different from English. Okay, that is the biggest disadvantage. At initial times it was okay because there was no internet, computers were used locally, and moreover they were invented by English people. So they were invented by English people and they are mostly used by English people. For them it was sufficient. But later when internet came into existence, okay, a file from suppose from one country, a file written by some person in one country is being accessed by a person in another country. So if I send a mail attachment, if I send a file as mail attachment from China to Japan, the person who opens the same file in Japan should be able to view the data. That means all the languages apart from English also should be given place in this encoding scheme. That means all the languages, all the other languages which use internet, they have their own characters. Those characters also should be given place in any encoding scheme. Okay. Unfortunately, ASCII has only English. It doesn't support other languages. It was its biggest drawbacks. Then came Unicode. So to solve the problem of ASCII, entered Unicode Consortium. Basically, it's an organization or mm, people from different countries with different languages. They came together, okay, and came up with a encoding scheme which has place for the characters from all the languages, not just English. Okay, so basically this Unicode is a consortium, okay, where people from different countries speaking different languages came together and tried to standardize encoding by giving place to characters used in all languages using encoding scheme defined by Unicode. Okay, Unicode is superset of ASCII. Okay, so it has all ASCII characters that are English characters plus characters from all the languages. Okay, now you understand what is Unicode. Unicode is superior. Unicode is superset of ASCII. If I have to write Unicode, Unicode is superset of ASCII, or Unicode equal to ASCII plus characters from all languages. Okay, also I can write it as Unicode equal to English characters that are nothing but ASCII characters plus characters from all languages. Now you know what is Unicode, what is ASCII. Okay, just keep this thing in mind. There are, okay, in Unicode, I said Unicode. So Unicode, when I say ASCII, it is just one scheme. But when we come to Unicode, there are many schemes that are defined by it, that are under it. Okay, Unicode defines many schemes again. So Unicode itself is just abstract. Okay, it's not actual encoding. This under Unicode there are multiple things like UTF-32 is actual encoding scheme, UTF-16 is one, UTF-8 is one. Okay, so under Unicode the actual schemes are these. Okay, so when I say Unicode encoding, that is either UTF-8 or UTF-16 or UTF-32. There are few other. I am not pointing them here. So these three are famous. Out of these three, the best one is UTF-8. For many reasons, UTF has upper hand over the other two Unicode encoding techniques or Unicode encoding schemes. Okay. So many places UTF-8 is a default encoding scheme because it is superior than any other encoding scheme. Okay, now you know what is ASCII, what is Unicode. So just if you don't understand anything, just have this thing in mind. ASCII is just English characters. Unicode is English characters plus all the characters from different languages from all over the world. Okay, that is it. Let me show you one example. Uh, Notepad is there, right? Uh, uh, English to Hindi translation. Okay, I'll got some word as go. That is chale jao. Okay, go in English called as chale jao in Hindi. So basically, this is a character. Chai is a character. Le is a character. So these are character. Okay, if I paste it here, see we are able to. This file is able to read this. Why? Because the encoding is UTF-8. UTF-8 means English plus all other languages. So UTF-8 can understand or encode and decode any characters in the world. Okay, that's why we are able to see Chale Java. So how this data is represented in memory? So I have written Chale Java. Okay, this is actually converted into corresponding bytes and stored in memory. Okay, okay. When we are actually viewing that data again, this Notepad++ reads the bytes, okay, and see the encoding scheme. It uses this UTF-8 encoding scheme. Using that scheme, it converts that data back into actual text and shows us. This is what happens on the runtime or on the fly. It happens when you when you open any text file. This is what happening. Okay. So we'll repeat this point one last time. Okay. Chale jao. I'll save it as desktop or some this PC in documents. Okay. My in the file .txt. We'll store it on desktop. What is this? Mm, okay. So if I go to this folder, Sidhu, I actually see my Hindi file. When I open that file, see from Notepad++, I'll close this. Okay. So here, this file, this is just name of the file. The data in this file is actually stored on hard disk in the form of bits. Okay. My Hindi file is name of the file or reference to memory location in hard disk. Okay, I told you, right? This like this. So this, suppose this what is my file? My Hindi file .txt. Okay, so the data present in it goes into hard disk as bytes. So I'll highlight it in some other color. I'll highlight it in blue color. Okay, so what data was present in that? That is Chale Java. Okay, Chale Java is converted into corresponding bytes, and this is 1 byte. Sorry, 010101. Note these are not actual bytes. I'm just giving and values. Okay, bytes. Okay, and this my Hindi file text just points to this location. Okay, when you open this file using Notepad++, what it is doing is it actually going and reading the bits, okay, and it converts that into characters. So how it converts? For converting them back to characters, it uses that encoding scheme, that is UTF-8. So in UTF-8, it was already defined. For character cha in Hindi, use this byte. For character le in Hindi, use this byte. This was already defined in it. So using that predefined or mapping from character to corresponding byte, it converts that back into actual character. Show us here like this. Okay, this is how files are stored and how they are read back. So while storing, encoding takes place. Okay, files are stored in hard disk. Okay, so encoding, so first files are first encoded, and then stored in hard disk. When we actually view the encoded data is decoded by our notepad plus plus file, and corresponding characters are shown back to us. Okay, this is how files are stored. So now you know what are the different files that are text files and binary files, how the files are stored in computer. They are stored in the form of bytes. Okay, then we deep dived into text files, how they are stored. Okay, they are first encoded and then stored. For encoding, there are multiple schemes. Few of them are ASCII and Unicode. ASCII defines only English characters. Unicode is superset of ASCII, which has English characters from all over the world. Okay, and UTF-8 uh, is most famous or best out of all the Unicode encoding schemes. Okay, so this last thing I'll show. Okay, what is the encoding here? UTF-8. Suppose if I change it to ANSI, let's see what happens. See, this is converted to characters which we cannot read. That means what exactly happened is, in ANSI, the character cha, le, jao, those Hindi characters were not defined in NC encoding. That's why it is not able to decode that back. Okay? It's not able to decode the bits back into actual Hindi text. That's why it's showing us wrong values. Okay. So if I change it back to encoding, UTF-8, in UTF-8 Hindi characters were defined. That's why it was able to convert it properly. Okay. So now this example might have cleared all your confusion. Okay guys, it's time to write our first Java program in Java IO. So file, I'll create a package as new new package, that is Java, I'll call it IO package. In it, I'll create a class. Name of the class is file example. I'll name it file example1. Put public static void main in it. Okay. So first we are going to discuss about creating a file. Okay. So for that, in Java there is a file class. File object equal to new file. Okay, so in order to use file class, we need to import file class from Java IO package. See, in Java IO package, file class is there. We imported that file class and using it here. Okay, now it's throwing error. Okay, why it's throwing error? File is the class name, file object is name of the object, new for instantiation, file, we know this is a constructor of file class. So suppose if I do this, it has multiple constructors. See, all with the name file, that is a name of the file is the class name. You know that constructor also has same name as the class name, file. 1 2 3 4 constructors are there. From now onwards, as I said, when we discuss about any class, we see what are the different constructors in present in it. Okay, uh, we may not be doing examples with each one of those constructor. We pick mostly used or most frequently used one and do our coding. Okay, so I'll go with first constructor, file string path name. Okay, I need to pass path name. What I'll do, I'll create a file test1.txt here itself. Okay, so if I give just file name, that file will be created under this project parent folder. What is the project folder? Selenium training. In this folder itself, this file gets created. Suppose if I give something like this, d my folder. So if we give like this, the file test1.txt gets created at this location. Okay, gets created at this location. What I will do, I will just give test1.txt. It will get created in our parent directory of this project. Okay, so let me remove this. So this was, it was initially, this was it was like this initially. So why it's throwing error? Because if I see the constructors, see here we are not passing anything to this file constructor. I am not passing anything. It's throwing error. Why? Because there is no constructor out of these four. There is no constructor which doesn't have parameter passed. Here we are not passing parameter. That means we are calling a constructor which doesn't have any parameter. But for this file class, there was no constructor without this parameter. That's why it was throwing error. So that means this you need to choose proper constructor. I'll go for this constructor, string path name, I'll give it here. Okay, so now we are calling the constructor with string path name. See, this is your file class which is provided with Java file.class. Okay, I did not write it. Okay, so this file.class has the constructors, multiple constructors. Out of these constructors, this constructor we are using string path name. We passed the path name. Okay, so we use the constructor which uses path name as parameter. Okay, don't worry. Okay, now let's see whether file exists. See, in this parent folder there is no file with name test1.txt. What I will do, there is one method in file class. Okay, using the file class object, this is file object, I will call that method. That method is exists. What it does, if this file exists, file object references to test1.txt file. If this file exists, it will return true. If file doesn't exist, it will return false. If what I will do, if file objects dot exist, that means if that file exists, I will print file syso test dot txt file does not exist, else it is simple file creation class. Okay, very simple. I'll say file exists. Let me run this. What I did, first I created a file object, okay, using this constructor. I pass uh, name of the file or path of a file to this that constructor. Then I am immediately checking whether that file exists. Test1 dot if file object dot exists. Sorry, it has to be the opposite of it. Okay, if I run it, it says test1.txt file doesn't exist. That means this line won't create a new file. We are just creating object which references to a file with name this. Okay, in order to create file, I need to use the method dot create new file. This will actually create the, that we need to throws declaration. Okay, this line will create a file. After this, I'll again paste this code here. See, initially here it printed file doesn't exist. Then we actually created file using this by calling this line or by calling this method. After that, it printed file exists. Let me go and refresh here. See, test1.txt got created. Okay, so the important thing that you need to identify here is this line won't create a new file. Okay, this create new file method actually creates file. What this line is doing, it just creates new object or allocates some memory to this test1.txt file. In this step, that file is actually created. Okay, so the memory which was already allocated at this line is being used here. Okay, after that it printed file exists, file got created. We just saw create new file method, exist method. Now get name. If you want to get name of the file, syso file object dot get name method. See, there are so many methods. I am just explaining you very few methods, so you can play with any one of these. But so let me print this value, run as Java application. So it printed file name, that is test1.txt. There is another method, syso file object dot get absolute path. Suppose if I want to get the absolute path of the file, I can use get absolute path method. See, it's giving me absolute path. C user cd, see, it gave me absolute path. So this is how we can create a new file. Okay, and there are multiple methods which act on the file. Okay, another thing we need to do is this create new file. What it does is it just won't create a new file. It checks whether this file already exists. It creates only if that file doesn't exist. If that file is already there, then this will not create a new file. What is the point of creating a new file when that file is already there? Okay, This is about file. We just saw create new file, exist, get name, get absolute path. Okay. Now the next thing we need to discuss is reading and writing. Reading data from files, writing data to files using or in Java. So that is our next discussion point. Okay. If I go and search for Java IO package and I search for images, see there are too many classes. There are too many classes. We don't know where to start, where to end. Let's not see. IO package, object input stream. There are too many classes. So first thing I did is to first thing anyone needs to do while learning Java IO is grouping the classes. Okay. So first logically group them, understand on high level what each group is doing, then go into the group, pick any one class, see what it's doing. The same thing that we are going to do now. Okay. So we need to, so since there are many Java IO classes which are used to read and write data from files to files, our first focus is to group the classes based on some logic, okay, and understand what each group is doing. Okay, for that grouping, before going into that grouping, we need to understand few things. Okay, first thing is input. These are very basic things, but still many people get confused. So in terms of Java IO or in terms of Java, what is an input? That is input to Java program. Suppose um, suppose this is my file and this is my Java program. Okay, this is my file. This is my Java program. Okay, so input means input to Java program. We have to say with respect to Java program. With respect to Java program. So what is an input? That is input is an input to Java program. What is an output? I'll create another thing. This is again a file, some other file. Okay, let me call it file B. Okay, what I'll do, I read data from this file. Okay, I take input from this file, then I do I do execute some logic. I might change the data or I might alter the data, then write that altered data to file B. Here this is output. So output of the Java program. Okay, when I say input, input to the Java program. When I say output, is output of the Java program. Okay, so here I am taking input from a file. Here I am outputting some data into a file. Okay, this is called input file. This is called as output file. Next, stream. Stream is a continuous flow of data. We can either read from a stream or write to a stream. Okay, how to explain this? So water flows as a stream. Okay, suppose if you open a tap, how water comes? It comes as a stream. So it's just a continuous flow of data or continuous flow of water. That is called stream. In Java, files if I am reading data from this file, that means I am reading a stream of data from this file. How to show pictorial representation? Pictorial representation of Java streams. Okay, this is mm, you can see this. See this. Suppose this is our input file. This is our Java program. Suppose. Okay. What we do is we open in stream first. Okay. So through that stream we get this flow of characters or flow of data, continuous flow of characters. Okay. So we read that stream actually. We don't actually read the file, data in the file. We first open a stream, means we, we open a stream. What is there in stream? Continuous flow of characters from the file into the stream. Okay. At the end of the stream, on the other side, we read the data from the stream. Okay. Instead of reading data as a chunk of characters, suppose there is Sachin Tendulkar. So instead of reading Sachin one time, Tendulkar one time, what we will do? We'll open a stream. In this stream, actual SACSI and that continuous characters flows, and we read each character by character at a time. Or this gives another best representation of. Okay. See, input stream. Okay. Uh, don't think what is input stream. Don't what it is. See this. Okay. Suppose this is our file. The file has data. We first open a stream, or we something like we make the file to leak all the data in the form of stream. Okay. Now all the data in present in this file is going through this stream. Now at the end of the stream we read that stream actually. Okay. This is what stream means. So stream is a continuous flow of data. We can either read from stream or write to the stream. Okay, when we are doing a read operation, we read from input file. The data present in the input file is read in the form of stream. Similarly, when we write data to output file, we write to output stream first. That output stream is then be stored in the output file. Okay, types of streams. Okay, this is most important. Types of streams: byte based streams and character based streams. So byte based streams are read and write raw bytes at a time. Okay. So as I told you that characters are converted to bytes, right? So in byte based stream, character flows in the form of bytes. That means if this is my stream, where is that paint? Suppose if this 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 suppose if this is my stream, okay. So here in case of byte based streams, the data present in this file, okay, it is converted to bytes. We know that the bytes flow, the bytes actually flow here. Okay, if it is Sachin Tendulkar, suppose data present in this file is Sachin Tendulkar, SACHINTNDULKR, okay, that characters won't flow. They are not the characters which flow. They are actually the characters converted into corresponding bytes. Those bytes flow. They are called byte streams. Okay. Don't worry, you will understand in our future examples. Though see, byte based streams are read and write raw bytes at a time. So actually the data flows in the form of bytes. Streams that are byte based are typically called something with stream. That's okay. Next, second type is character based streams. In character based stream, instead of byte data, the actual characters flows. Okay, Sachin Tendulkar, the actual data present in that file that flows character by character. Okay, you know the difference between byte streams and character based stream. In byte based streams, the bytes flow. In character based stream, the actual characters in the file flow. Okay, now we discussed what is an input and output. We discussed what is a byte based stream and what is a character based stream. Based on these four things, that is input output and byte based stream and character based stream, we are grouping actual Java IO classes, all the Java IO classes. They can be grouped into two groups. First group is grouping based on input or output. Okay, so for input, that means for reading files in Java program, we have a different set of classes which are purely used for read operations. And there is another group, okay, based on byte based or character based. Okay, the second categorization is based on whether they are byte based or character based. We just discussed what are byte based and character based. Okay, we'll show with the actual example. Don't worry if you are confusing. So my intention is to drill down to a point where okay, there are so many classes. I don't need to worry about all of them. From this group I will pick this class, from this group I will pick this class. This should be sufficient. Okay, now the same thing is mentioned in the second this slide. So if I further group, I can divide it into four different characters. That is character based input classes, character based output classes, and byte based input classes and byte based output classes. Okay, now we are going to discuss one class for each of these categorizations. So character based input class, character based output class. That means we read character by character from input file using this class. Using this class, these classes, we read we write character by character to output file. Similarly, we read byte by byte from input file using these classes. Here we write byte by byte to output file using these classes. Okay, so all the classes are categorized into these four categories. So in future, suppose when you are about to write any Java program which reads data from some file or which writes data to some file, the things that you need to check is whether you are going to read byte by byte or character by character. First decide this. Okay, so to do this, we know there are two kinds of files, that are text files and another is binary files. Binary files doesn't contain characters. Image doesn't contain characters. Your audio file, it doesn't contain characters. Okay, so it is stored purely in the form of binary data. Okay, so when you are to deal with binary files, you go for byte by byte or byte based classes. Okay, the other is character by character. When you are dealing with text files, okay, when you are dealing with text files, Okay, they have characters, so you can read, since they have characters, you can read character by character. So you can go for character based classes. Okay, I forgot to mention it here. Okay, you keep it like this, byte by byte, reader and input stream. The other type of file is text files or character files. They read character by character, go for character based classes. Okay, and reader and writer are used for character based classes. Okay, this is clear. Okay, so as I said, when you are about to write a new program, okay, you need to check whether you need to do a input operation or output operation. That is first thing you need to check. Second thing is whether you want to read binary data, that means just bytes, or characters. Okay, how you know whether you want to read binary and characters? Okay, so suppose if you want to read a image file, you know that is binary, it doesn't contain characters, then that is binary. If you are using simple .txt file, that is characters, character based files. Okay, go for characters. Now you know whether to input or output, or and binary or character. Based on that you choose your class. Here I mentioned the class for each. Okay, see, if it is a character based output program, go for print writer class. If it is a character based input program, go for buffer reader class. If it is a byte based input class, go for file input stream. If it is a byte based output, go for file output stream. Okay, so if you understand this, okay, so you know half of the Java IO. Okay, half of it. So now we are going to discuss about each one of these classes. It's already 10:20. We'll continue in tomorrow session. Today it's most of it is theory. Okay.